Hello everyone and welcome back to DET Coach's Beginner's Guide to the Duolingo English Test. In this lesson, we'll learn the response template and development method for narrative speaking sample prompts. For a narrative response, first focus on one specific experience. Then explain the context, action, result, and reflection in the order in which they occurred. You will usually use the past tense to describe what happened. When you discuss a present habit or the way the experience still affects you, you can switch naturally to the simple present. This prompt has 3 requirements. Tell about a time asks you to identify one specific experience. How did you respond? Asks you to explain the action you took. And what did you learn? Asks you to include the lesson you learned. The classroom example uses a school award ceremony. 4 students have one afternoon to prepare name cards and seating information. This scenario has a clear task and makes it easy to explain why accuracy matters more than speed. During the 30-second preparation period, you could first keep these keywords in mind. Awards ceremony, name cards, 2 mismatches, pause and check, errors fixed, and final check. These keywords are enough to establish the order of the entire response, so you do not need to compose it word for word in your head. For the opening, you can use, one experience that immediately comes to mind is. Add at the time to establish the context. Move into the action with the first thing I did was, and introduce the result with as a result. If you need to explain why the task was important, you can use. What made the situation important was, followed by, the reason I had to be careful was to explain why you could not afford to make a mistake. When the situation changes, you can use the situation changed when or what happened next was, followed by because of that to explain the effect of this change. If you need to add how you felt, you can use what stood out to me was, followed by, mainly because to explain the reason. Finally, use what I learned from the experience was, and since then, to complete the reflection. These frames help you decide what to say next while connecting the events through time order and cause and effect. If the prompt does not ask about feelings or lessons learned, you do not need to add extra content simply to use one of these frames. For more key sentences and transitions, read the written materials for this lesson on the DET Coach website. To place the classroom example into the template, begin by saying that you helped prepare name cards and seating information. For context, you were part of a 4-person student team with only one afternoon to complete the task. Next, explain the risk. A misspelled name or an incorrect table number could embarrass a guest and delay the event. After mentioning that you noticed 2 cards did not match the main list, give a specific sequence of actions. Ask the team to pause, divide the list into sections, check the spelling, and ask another student to verify the table numbers. The result is that several small errors are found before the guests arrive, and the ceremony begins smoothly. Finally, return to the lesson learned. Speed must not come at the expense of accuracy, and since then, you have built a final check into every important task. Use past tense verbs such as was, had, noticed, did, and found for the event itself. When you describe what you do now, switch to, I build in a final check. This allows you to complete the story and answer the what did you learn part of the prompt. Here is a complete narrative speaking sample response. One experience that immediately comes to mind is helping prepare name cards and seating information for a school awards ceremony. At the time, I was part of a 4-person student team, and we had only one afternoon to finish the job. The reason working carefully mattered more than working quickly was that a misspelled name or a wrong table number could embarrass a guest and delay the event. At first, everyone tried to work as fast as possible, but I noticed that 2 cards did not match the main list. The first thing I did was ask the team to pause. I then divided the list into sections, checked each spelling against the registration form, and asked another student to verify the table numbers. As a result, we found several small errors before the guests arrived, and the ceremony began smoothly. What I learned from the experience was that speed is useful only when accuracy is protected. I also developed a stronger sense of responsibility because other people depended on the details. Since then, I have still tried to work efficiently, but I build in a final check whenever accuracy matters. In the next lesson, we'll move on to Speaking Sample 03 and learn the response template and development method for descriptive and explanatory prompts.